Welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. And in today's video, we are going to be continuing Jujutsu Kaisen The Spire's Curse. What if Miles Morales was Sukuna's vessel? Season 1, Part 4. As always, if you're new to the channel or if you're a regular and like what we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that's to come out now and in the future. Where we last left off with our story, our 4 first-year students at Jujutsu Tech prepare and hone their skills as the upcoming Kyoto Sister Goodwill cultural event is set to take place. In doing so, Miles, Megumi, Yuji, and Nobara seek to grow stronger as they aim to become the best in the world of Jujutsu sorcerers. Yuji finds himself training under the likes of Danny Rand. In this universe, he is known as the Jujutsu sorcerer, the Iron Fist, while Megumi and Nobara train with the second-year students. As for Miles, he continues to fake his death as he continues his training under Satoru Gojo. And as he broadens his horizons, will he have what it takes to grow in his power and skills as the dangers and threats continue to grow? For all this and more, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. It was a normal afternoon as Megumi and Nobara had gone off to get drinks. They had taken a break from their training with Maki, Panda, and Toge, and being the first-year students, it was only natural that they would admit to the whims of the upperclassmen. Not that it was any form of hazing or anything like that, it was just the proper custom and respect to show. Of course, though, they were still well in thought. For one, they wondered how Yuji was doing. Of course, he wasn't training with them. Yuji Itadori was in his own predicament at the moment. Safe to say, all of his hair was burnt off, along with, most of his skin. What was left of him, you couldn't hardly tell. He had been stuck in the flames of the immortal dragon. Safe to say, the only thing keeping him alive was him focusing his cursed energy through his body, just to sustain himself. It felt like absolute hell. It was hell. Right now, Yuji was sitting inside of a large kettle. It was about big enough for, say, a human to sit inside. And it was there that the immortal flames of the dragon Xiaolong burnt constantly. The dragon's flames imbued with cursed energy, radiating all through and within Yuji Itadori. This was the baptism by fire. Now, under normal circumstances, a normal trainee would go through years of training, slowly acclimating their body to the power of the flames. However, because Itadori only had a month, and given Gojo's urgent request, Danny decided that he'd have to make the training extreme. And unfortunately for the boy, before they could do any real training, Itadori had to survive this trial. And he was only 4 days in, still 3 more to go. But if he could survive the 7 days, what would come out would be someone imbued with the power of not only the Iron Fist, but someone who may even have a chance to inherit the Iron Body. But that was easier said than done. But why was Gojo pushing his students so hard? Well, it wasn't by accident. The world was starting to change. For so long, the higher-ups and those who held on to tradition had failed to see the rise and the growth in power. More special grade curses were starting to appear more and more. And not just the cursed spirits themselves, but those capable of using cursed energy. Jujutsu sorcerers were also starting to grow in power. In a way, you could say that the overall balance was starting to turn. Soon, a special grade may not mean what it used to anymore. It was about to be defined in a whole new realm of power. And Gojo believed that these young students would be the ones fighting on the forefront, those who showed exceptional talent, like Megumin or Itadori or Miles, and even a student who currently wasn't there. All of them were growing in their powers, and in due time, that power would be unleashed onto the world. But in the meantime, though, power always finds a way of clashing with even greater power. Both Nobara and Megumi would learn this firsthand as they came face to face with fellow students from Kyoto, that being in the form of Mai Zenin, the twin sister of Maki Zenin, as well as Todo, whose name and strength was being recognized all through the Jujutsu world, especially for his participation in the event, the Parade of 1,000 Curses that had occurred just a year prior. It was said that he not only exercised 5 first grades, but even exercised a special grade. His power was on a whole other level. However, the two imposing figures had their own reasons for being there. Mai, just looking to stir up trouble, and Nobara found herself on the receiving end of that. But for Todo, he had heard about the rumors of what had happened as he looked towards Megumi. "Hey you're Fushiguro, right?" "Yeah, I am. So what about it?" "Word is you inherited the power of the spider. And so soon. For the power to be passed down so quickly. I gotta say, the wielders must be losing their touch. You're already the 3rd host." "I wouldn't actually call it a blessing that I got it. Sure, I understand under the circumstances, your friend dying and all. But still." Todo would rip off his jacket as he looked towards Megumi. "After the 3rd years got suspended and won't be participating in this event, I have to play around with you 2nd and 1st years. And seeing as how this is going to be my last chance to cut loose, I want to see if it's even worth me attending or not. So tell me, Fushiguro, and depending on your answer, it'll decide whether I just beat you badly or if I beat you to death. Tell me, what's your type of woman? 'Cause mine's tall with a fat ass." "Huh? Come on, don't leave me hanging, bro. I asked you a question. I was so gracious to offer only to beat you half to death. However, my kindness shouldn't be taken for weakness. I'll ask you again, what's your type, bro?" "Well, if I had to pick, if I really had to think about it, I guess as long as a girl that has good character and a nice personality, that's all I really need." "Are you for real? Are you serious? Your answer, it's such horse shit." Even with the enhancement of Spire Sense, Todo's speed was still incredible, able to clear the distance between the two of them rather quickly as he went for a clothesline. He sent Fushiguro flying out into an open field as he went following after him, Fushiguro landing back on his feet as he dodged the multiple strikes and attacks coming his way. He would summon a set of his Shinigami, frogs with bird wings, as they would attack at Todo. Fushiguro had been getting more and more used to his powers, thanks to some help from Satoru Gojo. You see, before Peter died, he always kept with him a memoir, if you will, a little journal detailing how his powers worked and how best to use them. He figured the power would be passed down, although he kind of figured that the power would be passed down under better circumstances than this. Of course, Miles had to journal briefly, but he didn't really contribute anything that was all that new or original. Although then again, the boy only had the power for around 6 months, so it wasn't like there was a lot that he could do with it, and now it was in Fushiguro's hands. For the most part, the power of the cursed spider was all on its own, but it could act as a complement to the other powers if a Jujutsu sorcerer had any. Of course, the overall increase in strength, speed, stamina, the spider strength reflex, all that other stuff was just a natural buff in stats. In fact, it allowed Fushiguro to fight on par with Todo, but it was only to a certain degree. Again, you have to think of the power of the cursed spider like the power of One for All from My Hero Academia, and how the more the power is passed on, the stronger it gets. You could say that it's not only the powers of Spider-Man, but it's also a stockpiling power, or technically speaking, a stockpiling curse. And between Miles and between Peter, they stocked up some good power that was now added on top of Fushiguro's. And with the latent talent that Fushiguro had within himself, it was safe to say that he was entering into a new realm of power. And Fushiguro had taken to using the spider power for his own. He didn't just make any webs, he made webs out of shadow. Being able to use his shadow webbing technique, he was able to bind and hold Todo in place before giving him the runaround. Although Todo quickly squashed that by flinging Fushiguro up into the air before grabbing him and hitting him with a hard German suplex, driving his head right into the concrete dirt, and then lifting him up and palming him in the face as he went rushing him through buildings. Thankfully, they were half built, so they weren't to completion, but even still, Fushiguro could see that the gap in power between he and Todo was still great. I gotta say, Fushiguro, you're not too bad. It seems the power of the spider might not be entirely wasted on you. Yeah, it could have suited someone like you. In truth, if he had given it to someone like Todo, he could probably get the most out of it right now. Nah, I don't want it. Besides, if you can't make the most of it, then it's not a power worth having. No offense to Peter, Sensei, or to your friend, but still, for a power that's supposed to be limitless in potential, when its users keep dying so easily, well then I don't really think it was anything that... Before he could finish his sentence though, he would find himself catching a kick to the face as he went landing on his back, as Fushiguro would stand. Respectfully, shut the hell up. You don't know a damn thing about Peter, and you don't know a thing about Miles. The two of them were excellent sorcerers in my opinion, and the power I have now is entrusted to me by them. So I will live up to the legacy they've left behind. And if you really want to fight, then I'll give you one. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That look in your eyes. You look like you want to kill me. You keep testing me, and you will die. Todo went charging towards Fushiguro, but before he could get any closer, Toge would use his cursed technique of cursed voice, telling him to stop. Todo would be stopped in his tracks in that moment, as Panda would come in with a punch of his own, sending the third gear flying. Hey now, Todo, Panda would say. No need to be causing trouble and chaos already. The Goodwill event's gonna be a time for us to really push our limits. Don't you agree? Yeah, I know. I wasn't really gonna do anything. Besides, I got places to be anyway. I just need to find my jacket and then we can get out of here. In the meantime, Maki met with her twin sister. No love lost between the Zenin twins. And despite her efforts, Nobara, despite the hits she had taken, was actually still up and ready to go, as Toto would arrive and the two of them would take their leave. Toto had a meet and greet with this idol of his, and if he missed it for any reason, well, it's safe to say everyone there was going to have to fend for their lives, maybe even the staff. It was a good thing that they were leaving too. And in the meanwhile, Satoru Gojo would decide to pay the principal of the Kyoto school a visit, that being in Gokuganji. The elderly man with multiple piercings dressed in traditional robe. You couldn't tell if he was a corpse that was half dead or if he were just a statue of a corpse. But even still, Gojo, it didn't really matter all the same. The talk would be brief, but it was very clear that there was no love lost between the two of them. The principal of Kyoto was not only an active principal, but he also served as a member of the Jujutsu committee, a higher up, if you will, of old heads who still clung to tradition, as Gojo would call it. The reason for the meeting is because Gojo was keenly aware as to why his students had been sent off to deal with that special grade in his absence. It was because of the fact that they were trying to get Itadori killed, and as far as they knew, they succeeded. However, Gojo would warn them sternly. If they continued going down the path that they were, their actions were only going to lead to more harm and chaos. And if they thought that Gojo was going to fight in their battles for them, they were ridiculous. In fact, as far as Gojo was concerned, if this ended up getting them all destroyed in the process, then that was only good for him and his cause, because then he could take over and enact real change. The principal would only scoff at Gojo's disrespect, but Gojo would quickly take his leave just as soon as he arrived. There was a young girl there also, dressed in a suit and tie. Miwa, a girl with long flowing blue hair. While she was trying to fight for the honor and for the respect of her principal, deep down she was secretly a massive fan of Gojo, and once he left the room, she went to go get a selfie with him, and for her, it was the best day of her life. But in the meantime, Miles was continuing his training. Of course, like always, Gojo couldn't oversee him all the time, so he had someone helping to look after him. A fellow colleague, if you will, and former student, that being Nanami Kento, businessman turned Jujutsu sorcerer. Although if Nanami had it his way, he wouldn't do either. He made it very clear. He hated Jujutsu sorcerers. He hated everything about them. But when he tried to get a 9-to-5 in the workforce, he realized something. He hated doing that too. Being an adult made him realize he hated a lot of things. But it wasn't what you thought it was. You see, truly being an adult is learning to accept the minor inconveniences in your life. Like when you're going out for a walk and it rains and you forgot to bring an umbrella. Or when you're trying to catch the subway and you realize you're just a few yen short. Or when you go to a convenience store that always had your favorite sandwich and potato chips, and then one day you realize that your favorite brand of potato chips have not only been discontinued, but they're not going to be sold anywhere ever again. And you realize that if you had known the last time you were going to buy your favorite brand of potato chips, that would be the last time you would buy your brand of potato chips, you probably would have brought more. But no, you can't buy more because you have to be responsible with your money, which means that last time, at best, you maybe could have bought an extra bag or two. But let's be honest, you're a greedy little bastard, and you know that you're going to eat through them. You're not going to take the time to save and savor them for a special occasion. So now you have to live the rest of your life, cursed with the fact that you only got to eat your favorite chips when you didn't even know you were eating them for the last time. But if that's not bad enough, they'll give you a new brand of chips. They'll say they're much more better than the original in every way. And sure, the packaging might be nice, the smell might be good, and they may even taste slightly better. The key word is slightly. But in the end of the day, all of these inconveniences, all of these little annoyances that only add to the burdens of adulthood, that described Nanami's life to a perfect T. He hated almost everyone. He hated almost everything. He could respect something, but he hated it also. The only thing that dictated his life was logic and reasoning. And even then, he hated that too. He hated a lot of stuff. But honestly, if he had to pick, he would choose the least of the things that he hated the most. That's how he went about his life. You think he liked the suit and tie that he wore? No. The only reason he wore it was because there was a worser option, and he'd be damned if he was going to wear the worser option, so he just chose what they had. It's the same thing with having a career. He could either be a businessman, or he could be a Jujutsu sorcerer. He was really good at both, but he hated both. But honestly, he hated being a businessman slightly more, and because of that, he chose to be a Jujutsu sorcerer. But don't get it twisted, he absolutely hated it. And safe to say, Miles found himself in a rather complicated situation. He was dealing with someone who was easy to understand, but at the same time almost impossible. And it didn't really help that Gojo was, well, let's just say everything that Nanami was not. But even still, while Miles was going to be spending his time basically studying under Nanami, they were going to be investigating a situation together. It had occurred at a movie theater. There weren't many in attendance for this particular movie, save for 4 boys, 3 unruly children sitting near the front, and 1 boy sitting near the back. To the naked eye on the video camera, it would appear as if nothing happened. The 3 boys suddenly would convulse in the middle row, their bodies turning grotesque and transforming into something obscene, hideous, revolting. And then the young man all the way in the back would leave immediately. Of course, to the naked eye, it appeared like it was a wicked phenomena. And to be entirely honest, when situations like this happened, this is why Jujutsu sorcerers were called in. It's why no one got involved and why no one got into their business. Not much was known about this sort of stuff or about the world that they lived in. But to be honest, when you see enough freaky stuff like this, you just learn to turn the other way when those mysterious people show up and say they'll handle it. It's the only way you live a long life in this business. When you're this close to retirement, you're not about to risk it all for some case, getting involved in something you had no business and with something you had little control over. For Miles, as he studied with Nanami, they would investigate the incident, and in doing so, they found that the boy that had left the scene was a young man by the name of Junpei Yoshino, a student at a local high school. For Nanami, he believed that this was a twofold mission. While that young man was clearly not responsible for what happened, it was obvious that he was aware of what did. And because of that, if they were able to follow him, then they might be able to get some answers. Miles, along with Ichiji, the student faculty assistant, was going to go and find the boy and see whatever they could dig up about him. Of course, this was a twofold request. The first was to get Miles some much-needed experience out in the field. Being a Jujutsu sorcerer wasn't just about knocking up curses and destroying them every chance you got. It was also the subtleties, learning how to use your deductive skills and reasoning to figure out what happened. But in the meantime, Nanami was going to be following a different trail. He knew exactly where the trail led of the person who likely would have done it. Although, knowing him, you couldn't even call whatever did this a person. The bodies that were mangled and destroyed, along with the recent cursed spirits that both Miles and Nanami had been battling, they were far from ordinary. No, they were humans. Humans whose bodies had been modified with cursed energy. Brain-dead monstrosities. Whatever they were abominations that were created. And more than likely, it was by a cursed spirit. Whatever it was dangerous. There was no point in getting them both killed. While Miles and Ichiji would begin their search for Junpei, Nanami would begin his own. A search that ultimately led him down to the sewers below Tokyo. There, he would find the cursed spirit he was looking for. As he looked at his watch, he would adjust his tie and fix his glasses. as he made his way into the darkness below. Regardless of what happened here, one thing was for sure. Nanami would be damned if he was working overtime. This concludes Jujutsu Kaisen: The Spider's Curse. What if Miles Morales was Sukuna's vessel? Season 1, Part 4. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that is to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned later on this evening as we'll be continuing this week's dose of the Daily Double as we continue Kill la Kill: The Web of Life. What if Spider-Gwen was in Kill la Kill Part 4? But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.